Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers allude that Willow Tate might have a house arrest twist in her future. Will Nina Reeves call in her Jack Brennan favor to get her son out of Pentonville? Nina is incompletely to condemn for Willow's current dilemma since she gave her a fake justification that boomeranged. The judge eventually ruled Willow was a flight threat and denied bail, so she was remanded to Pentonville to await trial. Still, GH suckers can't forget that Brennan owes Nina a favor. Brennan sought Nina's help persuading Lulu Spencer to get on board with allowing Charlotte Cassadine's visit to Valentine Cassadine. Since Brennan assumed Nina and Willow were headed for trouble thanks to the Drew Kane shooter case, he suggested the WSB could help them out in exchange for Nina's cooperation. Isn't it about time for Nina to call in that favor and try to do commodity to help Willow? Brennan can work all kinds of magic when he puts his WSB power to good use, so perhaps he could indeed help Willow out. That doesn't mean Brennan can get relief of the charges, but he might have enough connections to get Willow put on house arrest. It'd be a good result to the flight threat problem since Willow would be wearing an ankle examiner and would go straight back to captivity if she didn't play by the rules. Of course, Drew Kane has connections of his own as a Solon and might ultimately work out this house arrest deal for Willow rather. Drew promised Willow that he'd help her and still needs to follow through on that oath, so we'll see if he can eventually do commodity useful for formerly. Whatever the case, Willow is stuck in a captivity cell at the moment, but she might have a path to a little further affable situation. Could a house arrest twist be coming up for Willow? General Hospital spoilers say Willow will keep hoping her luck's going to turn around, so stay tuned on whether she might get some good news for formerly. In the perpetually simmering cauldron of Port Charles, moments of pure, unadulterated peace are as rare as a sunny day in a hurricane season. Life in this town operates on a precarious axis, where joy and tragedy are not merely neighbors but locked in a constant, brutal dance. On this particular day, the community finds itself violently pivoted on this axis, as two profoundly contrasting events unfold in parallel, one a sacred beginning, the other a shattering end. The air is thick with the dichotomy of human experience. Within the hallowed, gentle walls of a chapel, a baptism promises hope and new life, while across the city, the devastating news of a plane crash extinguishes a life filled with fury and complexity, unleashing a tsunami of regret, anger, and ominous threats that will forever alter the landscape of multiple families. A sacred preamble, the baptism of wily Corinthos. The chapel is a sanctuary, a bubble of soft light and hushed reverence, deliberately insulated from the chaotic energy of the outside world. At its center is wily Corinthos, an innocent child whose very existence is a tapestry woven from the threads of multiple families, the Quartermains, the Corinthos clan, and the extended web of the Davis women. Surrounding him are the people whose lives are irrevocably intertwined with his. Michael Corinthos and Willow Tate, his adoptive and biological parents respectively, stand as a united front, their hands clasped tightly. Their journey to this moment has been paved with unimaginable hardship, secrets, illness, betrayal, and a hard-won reconciliation that has only strengthened their bond. Their love for Wiley is a fierce, protective force, and today represents a covenant, a spiritual sealing of their family unit. Beside them are the grandparents, figures of immense influence and turbulent histories. Carly Corinthos, a woman who has built empires and weathered every conceivable storm, watches with eyes glistening with unshed tears. For her, this is more than a baptism, it is a symbol of resilience, a testament to her son's journey to find stability and love after his own traumatic past. Across from her, Alexis Davis, sharp-witted and eternally grappling with her own demons, feels a profound sense of closure and hope. Her lineage, so often marked by chaos, is now witnessing a moment of pure grace. The priest's voice is a soothing balm, his words of blessing and welcome washing over the small congregation. He speaks of new beginnings, of being cleansed from sin and born into a life of faith and community. These are encouraging words in their most potent form. They are not mere platitudes but a powerful invocation for a future unburdened by the mistakes of the past. As he anoints Wiley's forehead with holy oil, the water in the font shimmering in the candlelight, it feels like a genuine fresh start. For a fleeting moment, every person in the room is united in this hope, their own complicated histories suspended in the sanctity of the ritual. This baptism serves as a powerful narrative anchor. It is the calm before the cataclysm, the last, full breath Port Charles takes before the world stops turning. The love and hope concentrated in this room are about to be violently counterbalanced by the fury and despair erupting elsewhere. 2. The shattering news, the crash and Tracy's torrent of regret. The precise mechanics of how the news travels are less important than the devastating impact it makes. A phone buzzes, a silent, insistent vibration that cuts through the post-ceremony quiet. A news alert flashes on a screen. A frantic call from a FAA contact to a Port Charles PD insider. The information is fragmented at first: a private plane, lost from radar, debris field located, no signs of survivors. And then, the identification of the passenger, Ronnie. To the wider world, Ronnie might have been a minor player, a henchman with a grudge. But in the intricate, venomous tapestry of Tracy Quartermain's life, he was a pivotal and malevolent thread. Ronnie was the man she had hired to kill her brother, Tracy's own son, Drew Kane, a plan born of a twisted mix of corporate greed, familial resentment, and sheer desperation. He was the embodiment of her darkest choices, a walking, talking manifestation of her capacity for ruthlessness. When the news reaches Tracy, it does not come as a slow, dawning horror. It is a physical blow, a sucker punch to the soul that steals the air from her lungs and the strength from her legs. The world, once so solid and predictable, tilts on its axis. The scene that follows is a masterclass in tragic collapse. Tracy Quartermain, the matriarch known for her iron will, her razor-sharp tongue, and an emotional armor forged in the fires of decades of Quartermain drama, completely and utterly shatters. She does not simply cry. She bursts into tears of regret, a raw, guttural outpouring of a lifetime of suppressed guilt, fear, and sorrow. These are not quiet, elegant tears, they are the tears of a woman whose carefully constructed world is imploding. Her body trembles, racked with sobs that seem to tear from a place deep within her that she long thought deadened. The regret is multifaceted, a poisoned cocktail of emotions. First, there is the immediate, terrifying regret for Drew's life. With Ronnie dead, the only person who could call off the hit is gone. The assassination order is now a ghost in the machine, an unstoppable bullet already fired. Her son is in mortal danger because of her, and she is now powerless to prevent it. The helplessness is absolute and suffocating. But deeper than that is a more profound, existential regret for the choices that defined her life. As she collapses into a chair or against a wall, her mind is likely a whirlwind of flashbacks, the bitter arguments with her father, Edward, the constant rivalry with her siblings, the manipulation of her children, the cold calculations she made for the sake of the Quartermain fortune and legacy. In this moment of supreme crisis, she sees the hollowness of it all. The empire she fought so viciously to control feels like a gilded cage. The son she sought to protect by having another killed is now facing death by her own hand. The tears are for the mother she failed to be, the sister she could have been, and the woman she sacrificed on the altar of power. This is Tracy Quartermain at her most vulnerable and most human. The corporate titan is gone, replaced by a heartbroken, terrified mother, drowning in the consequences of her own venom. It is a pivotal character moment that will redefine her for the foreseeable future, forcing her to confront the true cost of a life lived in anger. 3. The shockwave, encouraging words turn to ashes. Back at the chapel, the joyful atmosphere has not yet dissipated. The encouraging words of the priest still hang in the air, mingling with the scent of candles and the soft murmurs of the family. Hugs are shared, photos are taken, and Wiley is passed between adoring relatives, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. It is in this idyllic bubble that the news first infiltrates, likely through a hushed, horrified whisper. Carly's phone rings, and her face, once radiant with grandmotherly pride, slowly drains of color. Michael sees the change in his mother's demeanor and feels a familiar chill, the chill that always precedes disaster in Port Charles. The encouraging words about faith and future suddenly feel hollow, their meaning stripped away by the brutal reality of tragedy. The hope that was so carefully cultivated during the baptism is instantly reframed. It is no longer a general hope for Wiley's future, but a specific, desperate plea for the safety of their own, for Drew, for themselves, for the stability they have just celebrated. The family unit, so symbolically strengthened, is now facing an external threat born from its own darkest internal corruption. The sacred water of the font and the fiery debris of the plane crash exist in the same moment, a stark reminder that in Port Charles, no happiness goes unpunished. 4. The fuse is lit, angry threats and the promise of retribution. While Tracy drowns in regret, another, more volatile reaction is brewing. This news is not just a tragedy, it is a declaration of war. And in the world of Port Charles, no one hears the call to battle clearer than Sonny Corinthos. When the information about the crash, and Ronnie's connection to it, reaches Sonny, his response is the polar opposite of Tracy's collapse. Where she fractures, he consolidates. Where she weeps, he steals. His signature empathy is instantly subsumed by a cold, focused rage. This is not just the death of a hired gun, it is an attack on his family. Drew may be a Quartermain by blood, but he is under Sonny's protective umbrella. More importantly, the plot involved his wife, Carly, and by extension, his entire domain. Sonny's anger is a strategic, dangerous force. He begins to pace, his mind already mapping the battlefield. The angry threats he makes are not shouted in a blind fury but are delivered in a low, gravelly tone that is far more menacing. They are promises. Whoever did this, they don't know what's coming for them, he might growl to Jason Morgan or his right-hand man. You don't put a hit on a Quartermain and think you can just walk away. This ends now. We find who's left, and we send a message they can't ignore. These threats are the direct consequence of the crash. Ronnie was a tool, a weapon. Someone aimed him. And with the tool broken, Sonny's focus shifts immediately to the hand that held it. His criminal empire, often a source of conflict within his family, now swings into action as an instrument of retribution. He will mobilize his network, turn the city upside down, and use any means necessary to uncover the conspiracy and eliminate the threat. This places him on a direct collision course with the other powerful forces in the city, potentially including the PCPD, other criminal factions seeking to capitalize on the chaos, and even Tracy herself, whose secret he will inevitably uncover. The angry threats extend the narrative far beyond the immediate tragedy. They are the planting of a flag, a promise of future confrontations, violent showdowns, and a deepening of the show's central mob-centric conflict. The baptism's theme of being cleansed of sin is brutally inverted. Sonny's path is not about cleansing, but about wading even deeper into the darkness to protect his own. The unraveling tapestry, a community on the brink. The fallout from these simultaneous events will not be contained. It will seep into every corner of Port Charles, pulling in characters far and wide. Drew Kane, the man living on borrowed time, completely unaware that the shadow of death has just lengthened over him. His every interaction will now be viewed through a lens of dramatic irony by the audience. His survival is the central ticking clock of this storyline. The PCPD, Commissioner Anna Devane and Detective Dante Falconeri will be pulled into the investigation of both the plane crash and the inevitable violence that follows Sonny's quest for vengeance. They will be trapped between the desire for justice and the need to prevent an all-out gang war. The Quartermain mansion, the dynamic within the mansion will become a toxic stew of suspicion and grief. As Tracy's secret begins to fray, how will her relationships with Brooke Lynn, Ned, Eddie, and the rest of the family survive? The revelation that she targeted her own son could exile her from the family forever. Carly and Michael, their hard-won peace is shattered. They are once again thrust into the orbit of Sonny's dangerous world. Michael, who has struggled so deeply with his father's business, will be forced to confront where his loyalties lie when his uncle's life is on the line. 6. Thematic resonance, beginnings, endings, and the ghosts of regret. This powerful sequence of events is a classic General Hospital narrative engine, masterfully intertwining its core themes. The baptism represents the eternal hope for redemption and the dream of a legacy untainted by the past. It is the future everyone in Port Charles claims to want. The plane crash is the brutal intrusion of consequence. It is the past, in the form of Tracy's and Sonny's actions, literally crashing into the present and destroying the future. It proves that secrets and sins are not buried, they are simply waiting for the right moment to detonate. Tracy's regret is the human cost of that consequence. It is a poignant exploration of what happens when a character is forced to look in the mirror and see the sum total of their life's choices. Her breakdown is not just about one failed plot, it is a crisis of identity. Sunny's threats are the cyclical nature of violence in Port Charles. One violent act begets another. A death demands retribution, ensuring that the wheel of conflict keeps turning. It is the opposite of the baptism's promise of peace, it is a vow for more war. In conclusion, the spoiler baptism begins, encouraging words, angry threats. Ronnie dies in plane crash. Tracy bursts into tears of regret is not merely a logline for a single episode. It is the blueprint for a sweeping, multi-layered saga that strikes at the very heart of what makes General Hospital compelling. It juxtaposes the purest form of hope with the most devastating form of despair, and in doing so, sets in motion a chain of events that will test the morals, loyalties, and very souls of every character it touches. The holy water has been sprinkled, and now, the fire begins.